I'm so happy to be able to welcome you to the Ivy Football Association's 2023 dinner. Yes, it's been a few years, but it is so exciting to be back together for this wonderful time-honored celebration of your finest. It's a testament to the fact that all of you share a connection that grows stronger and deeper each year that passes. What you all share is something that lasts a lifetime. And coming together on a night like this builds on a fundamental foundation, a foundation that lingers with each of you through the years. So much changes throughout our lives, but the one constant you all can count on is to know that you have each other. Enjoy this celebration of lifelong friendships and the great pride you all share.
30 to 40 years from now, I'm really going to remember the community. This team creates brotherhood after I'm done with my 4 years here, and it's going to stand for as long as time.
Smith, good move to get inside the 10. Spins to the goal line, and he's in for a Brown touchdown.
You're just surrounded by people that are making you better every day, and I think 20 to 30 years from now, that's what I'll be most appreciative for.
The backfield. Now over the middle and into the end zone for a touchdown.
Across the line. Play fake. Wong rolls out, looking deep, wide open, in for a touchdown is the Big Red. It's Nicholas LeBoy.
It's going again. Proctor turns, hands off to Roper, looking for the corner. Roper making a dash for the end zone.
And what I'll be most proud of is to be a member of the 10,000 Men of Harvard, individuals who I respect and revere and will try to be like every day from here on out.
Tony Ento just got the carry for Harvard, his first of the day. They throw it out to Woods. Woods finds an opening. Woods has an opening. Woods is gone for a Harvard touchdown. Flowers again. Flowers. End zone. Touchdown. Penn wins it in double overtime.
I think I'll remember it very fondly with my best friends, my brothers, going in every weekend during the season, going through every lift during the off season, through every run, all the hard times. I think all the hard times will be overshadowed by the championships, the bonfires, all that we earned on the field.
Flea flicker. Butler back to Stenstrom. Classy is wide open, and Classy is gone for a Princeton touchdown. Time to celebrate. Yale wins the game, and they have clinched at least a share of an Ivy League championship. Their 17th Ivy League title.
I can't remember just how much I grew. The love that I was shown here by the coaches, especially my teammates. That's something very special that you don't get really anywhere else. But you remember the time with your brothers, and that's what I'm gonna carry with my heart.
Give it up for your 2023 honorees. From Brown University, please welcome Kevin Mundt. From Columbia, Mike Pyszczymuca. From Cornell, Dr. Lyndon Gross. From Harvard, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Dartmouth's very own Robert Downey. The University of Pennsylvania recognizes Dr. J. Thomas Roland. Princeton University salutes James Blair. From Yale University, this year's outright Ivy football champion, John Spagnola. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we honor America and our servicemen and women around the world with a performance of our national anthem by Harvard's Ray Hornblower. donzel light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous height o'er the rampart we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sailors, our star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
And now, please welcome our co-master of ceremony from Yale University, Jack Ford.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to all of you. It's been 4 years since we last gathered. This is our 11th of these events. We started some 22 years ago. Tonight, we started back in 2001. We had about 600 people. We have more than 1,000, I am told. Now, I've had the great good fortune to be one of the MCs of this event since it started for 22 years. And in the last few years, I've had the even greater good fortune to be joined by a very good friend, a man who is one of the pinnacles of sports broadcasting. As good as he is at that, he's just a better person, and we're delighted to have him here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Brown University, the legendary Chris Berman.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you, Jack. Where's Brown? In the back? I know. All right, I'll get it over with now. It's great to be back at the Ivy League football dinner, all right? A lot of Yale awards you just gave out. We frankly had enough of it. I'm kidding. I live in Connecticut. We're good there. The one thing I will say to the Yale football team, the championship team, and congratulations the most recent year, you'll have a harder time beating Brown next year. Here's why. Don't laugh. Here's why. I gave a pregame speech this year. It didn't work, okay? I threw it away. You guys were really good, and congratulations to the champs of all of the 2019 and 2021 and 2022. We begin our honorees. We do it alphabetically. In the Ivy League, we know the order of the alphabet. We can split the atom, and we also know the alphabet, you know? So we're going to begin with my alma mater, and that's Brown, and a fella that I knew at school. He's 1 year ahead of me, but he looks 20 years younger than me, and that would be, I got a few words to say about my friend Kevin Mundt, class of '76 at Brown University. Hi, Kevin. He, on the gridiron, was tackled and it was part of the offensive line that helped turn Brown from laughing stock into a team that you had to take stock in. Now, there's a reason I'm using this way, but you know, it was, I hate to say it, but before we got there, if we beat Columbia, we were 1-8. If Columbia beat us, we were 0-9. I mean, that's just the way it was, right? And then these guys came in, and Coach Anderson came in. I know a lot of you don't care, and all of a sudden we won. And and we kept winning, and it was really cool to be on campus. Many of you have experienced the same thing in your own schools, maybe not so well, and your team, and you were on campus when things started happening. It was very, very cool. But so we're taking stock in Brown because it's fitting that Econ and Harvard Business School, but we go to Bain, Marsh and McLennan, global consumer. I don't even know what a lot of this means, Kevin. You'll have to explain to me later. I only majored in American history, so financial services, consulting, businesses, that's just part of it. 2004, Vestar Capital Partners, managing directors of the firm's investments in consumer products. Again, sounds like some of the history papers I wrote. I'm having fun with you, that's all, pal. All along, he never forgot his alma mater, okay? He was a trustee emeritus, chaired the athletic advisory council of which I served on, and he was my boss. More important, he and his family's support for medical endeavors. Not so much theirs, but everybody's. Groundbreaking research, prostate cancer diagnosis and treatment. Hello. Kevin played a big position as tackle at Brown. He's played a bigger position in life as a husband, as a dad, and as a professional. Let's take a look.
I think probably one of the most transformative moments of my life happened when I was a senior in high school. My high school coach came to find me one day and he said, there are some schools from the Ivy League that would like to talk to you. And I said to my father, I don't know what I should do because I don't know if we would qualify for financial aid because Ivy League schools don't have athletic scholarships. And my father looked at me and he told me that he thought I was a great athlete and told me how much he loved me. And then he said, but if you can go to an Ivy League school and get an Ivy League education and play 1A football, even if I have to pay the bill, you should do that because you need to think about your life after football. And it changed my life forever. To be back here just evokes all those tremendous memories of teamwork, camaraderie, and gratitude for all the things I learned playing with you guys.
Kev, when I thought about when I walked on the field before, we stood over by the Brown Bear, was when me, you, and Elliot walked off the field for the last time.
Yep.
And it just choked me up.
Yeah.
They actually called timeout.
It was a great moment.
It's 3 offensive linemen. Your quarterback's got all the respect, offensive linemen, not much. And they called a timeout. We were going for a score.
You guys.
Yeah, we didn't want to stop. We wanted to score first. And we walked off the field arm in arm.
Wow.
And that's what memory came back to me doing that.
Well, I think, Kevin, you said it. For me, it's just gratitude. What Brown football did for me to enable me to come to Brown, which was something I never really dreamed of, and it's made such a difference in my life, and I think probably for you, for all of us. So it's really just a sense that we got the chance to come to a place like this, and be part of it. And
For sure.
Football is what did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To me, the most gratifying aspects of our group was that you just knew that we were playing for something other than ourselves. And to me, that meant everything. And by the way, I've applied that in every single phase of my life, right? I play for my family, not me. I play for our portfolio companies, not me. And having something bigger to play for than yourself. And you guys taught me that, and we reinforced it in each other. And I think that is such a blessing, and I'm so grateful for that lesson. We knew we had done something important, which we had taught ourselves and the program that we can win. And it was the thrill of a lifetime. I think one of the most important things that you can be blessed with knowing in life is that there's always someone better than you. And it keeps you humble. And certainly my experience with the Cowboys was an enormously important experience in humility for me. And I've applied it every day in my life since.
Kevin's obviously an incredibly talented person, very smart, has created incredible value for lots of companies, and it's because he, again, has had the answer and has been able to build on his previous experiences to get to that answer. And when he, was hit with this health scare, it was all new. And, the level of resolve he showed there to get to the answer, to get the right people around him, was again just outstanding.
Dr. Paul Nguyen gave me hope and saved my life.
I got to meet Kevin and Janie as Kevin's doctor. He had to face this prostate cancer diagnosis, and instead of thinking about himself, he thought about how can he make it so that the world doesn't have to deal with this disease anymore. He decided what to fund and what to support to try to bring about the research so that his sons wouldn't have to face this and that nobody would have to face this again. And that's the kind of guy he is. He thinks about the big picture.
Vestar divested of Woodstream about 2 years ago, and the value of Woodstream from when Vestar acquired it until when Vestar sold it quadrupled. So the value was 4 times from the purchase to the sale. Kevin was the chairman of the board the entire time. He was my partner the entire time. He's truly, truly a generous man and probably one of the most unselfish people that I've ever met in my life.
When I think of Kevin Mundt, I think of somebody who has enormous integrity, humility, and a fierce commitment to excellence. That was true when he was a student. It was true as an alum. It was true when he was a trustee on the Brown University Corporation or leading our Athletics Advisory Council. So he's somebody who has been faithful and all in steering Brown in the right direction.
I guess when I think of Kevin, I know that my life, the life of our university, and the lives of Kevin's many colleagues and teammates and classmates and admirers over the years have just been enormously enriched by their friendship with this man.
My wife, Janie, is the most incredible person. She's my coach. She's the person you want by your side when times are great and also when times are very difficult. And she has been, in addition to being an incredible wife, the most incredible mother of our 3 sons that you could ever imagine. While a lot in the world changes, some things never do change. And I think the quality of a Brown education, the commitment to educating people, and commitment to teaching people how to learn and go out in the world and do great things, Brown has been ever true to that. And I hope and expect that they will continue. Thank you for that gracious introduction, Chris. Thank you also to the Brown Football Association for this extraordinary honor. I too just saw this video for the first time, and it's a bit like watching my own memorial service, although I would bet that there may have been very different things said about me if it were the case. And at this point, I can probably only diminish whatever positive impression you may have of me, but that would not be the first time, so here goes. Simply put, this is the most meaningful award I've ever received. I am truly grateful for and humbled by this honor. Additionally, I am extremely proud and flattered to be included not only in this distinguished group of fellow inductees, but also among past honorees. Congratulations to you all. My life has been blessed by an arc of good fortune. Receiving this honor adds to that arc. But in reality, just a few of those blessings have made the biggest difference.
As the video showed, taking my father's advice, getting a Brown education while being part of a great turnaround in football. Meeting my incredible wife, Janie, fortunately, 7 years after college, and wouldn't have worked in college, and while she was sitting in the wrong airplane seat. Now, I can tell you for sure I would not be here without her and our 3 sons, of whom we're incredibly proud. Successfully facing cancer with my family unwaveringly by my side for more than 12 years. Learning the value of playing for something or someone bigger than yourself, and being graciously allowed to give back to Brown and to serve all these years. For me, an Ivy League student-athlete education was, is, and will continue to be a life-changing experience. I thank the Ivy Football Association and the players and coaches against whom I played. I am grateful for the contributions to that experience. I'll close with some borrowed words that speak powerfully to me of that experience. In 1912, following Jim Thorpe's last collegiate football game for Carlisle against Brown in Providence, Thorpe described his emotions saying, "I felt as though I wanted to fling my arms around the field and the goalposts and hold them tight so that their memories and traditions might never escape me." Well, I'm no Jim Thorpe, but his wish came true for me. Those memories and traditions never did escape me. In fact, they inspired me. And, along with my incredible family, contributed to being able to create and enjoy a wonderful life. How lucky I am, and especially to celebrate it with all of you here this evening. With sincerest gratitude, I thank you. And one more thing, go Bruno.
I have not heard that from Jim Thorpe. Fucking great. Yeah, thank you. Kevin didn't block for Jim Thorpe, but, and I'd never heard that quote, pal. That's great. If he did block for Jim Thorpe, he would have gained more yards. I'm just saying. And before we go on, again, a thanks to Ray Hornblower for the national anthem. That was really... And, you know, as a nickname giver, guy sings, Ray Hornblower, really? At any rate. Now, this stuff just comes to me. I haven't even had a beer. We're going to do a couple more, because you're wondering, okay, like, we're not going to eat until all 8 are done? Like, what's the story here? Are we on the diet already? We're going to do a couple more, then we're going to have dinner. So don't worry, okay? From Columbia, class of 1971, Michael Pyszczymuca. Did I do all right? Now, have you looked at the program? I think I did okay, Mike, but Pyszczymuca. So I was at the eye doctor a couple days ago, and that wasn't on the chart. If Vanna White was here, she'd give us a few vowels. As center at Columbia, one of the very best, all right? First team All-Ivy, but honorable mention 1 year for the AP All-America and third team All-America Associated Press playing center for Columbia, okay? So where he battled defenders on the football field, it was a precursor to his professional service. Nassau County Police Department, law enforcement, but that's just tickling the ivories. FBI special agent, 25 years. Fluency in both Ukrainian and Russian languages isn't that interesting. Invaluable in fighting Russian organized crime. And I would think rather invaluable now. Maybe he's the key to the solution. I hope so. Served all throughout Europe as special agent from Western Europe, Eastern Europe, etc. Post-FBI continued corporate security, focusing on, among many other things, counterfeit, illegal, and stolen pharmaceuticals. A fascinating career, just fascinating. Here's a gentleman whose job required brilliance in silence, but in his own way was the epitome of roar, lion, roar. Have a look.
Hey! Buzz! Welcome home! Hey, wow! Hey, I thought you guys were going to talk to them separately. That was the plan.
Congrats. How's it feel?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
How you doing? Good to see you, Bob.
Rock on, man. Glad to be here with you. How's it feel to be back in the old stadium, man, the old stomping grounds?
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys. Yeah, it's everything that it was way back then.
One football story. I was a skinny, kind of scraggly-haired quarterback, sophomore.
A pretty good quarterback,
Not
from
bad,
what I heard.
anyway. So I come to training camp, and there you are, standing in the huddle, first day, Camp Columbia, and you are intimidating. No smiles, uniform pristine, less than 0% body fat. You just scared the shit out of me.
Those were the days, Don.
Anyway, I take the first snap from you, and literally you lift me off the ground and you draw blood on my middle finger, which is somehow symbolic of something. Anyway, I said, this guy is not messing around. This is somebody that's going to be a great leader for our team and has been. So that was.
Believe me, it was an honor playing with guys like yourself and Paul Caliades and the other guys that came up in that sophomore group. And I was privileged to do so because I took a little bit of a absence from Columbia and came back, and I wanted to live up to my obligations to Billy Campbell. So,
excellent.
But thank you. Hopefully I didn't hurt you too much. We lasted the entire year.
You were something special. Obviously, All-American, one of the great linemen the league has ever seen.
1969, the Ivy League was very talented, particularly on the defensive. They had it seemed like every team had an army of ferocious, fast defensive linemen and linebackers. Mike met the challenge. He scored over 90% on his post-game grading and made All-American in his junior and senior year. So he was quite a football player.
Freshman year, we played Yale. We got beat by Yale. The offensive line hadn't done all that well. And so Billy Campbell decided he wanted to bring you guys out and make you guys work. And he kind of put together a ragtag group of guys on defense for you to go against. And that first day, more or less, we stood off against each other.
Yeah. Yep.
And Billy was kind of surprised. And so that second day, he put us against each other again. And it was another standoff. And then the third day, it rained. I said, thank God it rained, because I don't want to have to go up against Mike 3 times in a row. The third day, he said, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? I said, all I'm doing is following your head. Whichever way your head went is the way I went.
Probably the best coaching tip I ever got.
You know, looking back when, you know, they came to the States back in 1955, you know, as our grandparents and his 3 siblings with nothing. You know, when they moved here, they came into a Ukrainian community, right? It was basically kind of a transition of keeping that culture here.
They didn't speak the language?
Yeah, nothing. Football for him was the ability to assimilate to the American culture. But that was his single thing that made him feel like an American, right? And it really helped carry him through. And, you know,
and he was
here
a
through
big
Columbia,
kid.
we never had
we were like a band of football family. I mean, Mom had the VHS recorder over her shoulder. You know, I've met only a handful of them, but you just heard the names all the time. Yeah. Great guys. The connection he had with those guys, and like you said, that's what made him an American, what made him feel like an American.
Let's talk about life after Columbia. And I think you were involved because of your background in Russian languages and Slavic languages. It led to other things, didn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And they had an investigation in the case. I got a call. I got involved with the FBI. One thing led to another, but it all ended really well.
Wow.
It was a good career move for me.
So tell me about, I guess, you know, as we like to say, the things you know you can't tell us because you'd have to kill me, but there must be some things and some of the moments in your career that spanned into, you got involved in the international scene in the FBI.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Tell me about some of the milestones for you that existed in your career.
Well, it was an amazing period of time, Donnie. You know, Director Free was the director at the time. He realized the threat of Russian organized crime. And 92, 93, 94, he decided to add a number of international offices. And I was involved in that process. And I actually opened up the first legal attaché FBI representative office in Kiev, Ukraine. So I worked there for 3 years. Subsequently, I was pushed into Moscow for a year and a half, and then I came back to my third foreign country, Washington, D.C.
I think, you know, the same statement that goes with the FBI is you should be able to talk to the CEO of a company and the janitor in a building. And Mike certainly fits that bill. Mike can talk to anybody. He can provide guidance. He's been a great mentor to many agents and many law enforcement members internationally and domestically. And Mike's track record over the years demonstrates that being a good guy and a nice guy works out very well in addressing issues of complicated matters around the world.
52 years later, to be honored by Columbia alumni for my football accomplishments. I can't say enough to all the instructors that were here 50 years ago, the coaches, the teammates especially that drove me all the time. I will forever be grateful to them. Thank you very much for that introduction, and Chris, what a pleasure to meet you. I've been listening to you for what, 40 years? Jack, thank you for doing the Ivy League games. Really enjoy your commentary and glad that you're there. Gratitude to Columbia. When Donnie Jackson called me, he was my quarterback my senior year. Donnie was a sophomore and leader of a great sophomore group. I was stunned. I was happy. I had a lot of mixed emotions, and then he called me back a second time to confirm what was expected, and I realized it was happening. So Donnie and Columbia football, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this honor. I sort of started my journey about a mile away from here. And it's probably where the Chelsea Piers stand right now. April 7th, 1955. I remember as a 6-year-old kid, a couple of months shy of 7, looking down. It was a beautiful sunny day when we arrived to the United States. 4-day journey. And we left from Le Havre, France, after taking a train from Brussels. My first day, we were at my uncle's. I had potato chips for the first time. I saw a TV, and I Love Lucy was on. Like, talk about a trifecta. But my family, they were
They were tremendous people, and we were just one story in the midst of hundreds of thousands of people who survived Nazism, fascism, communism. Just incredible. I'm sort of raised on those stories and what happened to my family. And my father was 10, and he was walking with his mom to the NKVD building to pass on a parcel of food, which they could do every 2 weeks. And the guard looked at them and he said, "He's no longer for this world." My mom, when the Germans were retreating out of Ukraine, May of 1944, they took her mom, what a beautiful lady, anything that wasn't nailed down, and they threw them on a train. And they were basically forced labor. Her first stop was in Auschwitz, of all places. And they told the people, all right, get off the cars, we're gonna hose you down, take your clothes off. My mom was stunned. She was 18, first time she ever saw a naked person. But she looked across the way, half a mile away, and she realized that there was something sinister going on there. Sinister. And it was the Holocaust that she saw. This is what these people lived through. They were incredible. They made amazing sacrifices for myself, my brothers, and my sister, who got run over the third day that we were in the United States, 2-year-old. I don't know how my folks did it, but we had to do what we had to do. I was privileged to be at Uniondale High School, which was at the time probably a hotbed of academics and athletics. And I'm talking about the 60s, being a 66 graduate. And we had some of the greatest lacrosse players in the world. Jimmy Lewis, still to this day, considered one of the greatest attackmen, went to Navy. I saw him from a distance. And I was dragging a baritone around for 3 years. And I said, do I want to pick up a stick? Or do I drag this baritone around? So I got interested in sports, and I wasn't very coordinated, but the Ukrainian culture made me coordinated. Ukrainian dancing and scouts and everything else. I was privileged to be coached by great people on a high school level, taught by great people at the high school level, and I had a lot of great examples. Rob Ruggiero, Dr. Ruggiero was here with his lovely wife, Barb, Nay Cummings. What incredible people. And I'm so happy that we resurrected a relationship recently. We had some great guys that set examples for us, and I remember my senior year going to my guidance counselor, and she goes, "Oh, you're one of them. You're a captain of the lacrosse team, captain of the football team. The AD's going to handle you." I said, "All right, what the hell do I know? I'm an immigrant kid." But it was a great experience. I did some visits. I went on one visit with my dad to Yukon, and he goes, "Ooh, I like it here. It's very rural. I like the farms." And that was it. But you know, my dad never went to a football game or a lacrosse game in high school. Excuse me, he went to one, and we beat East Meadow, and I let in a goal. And typical tough little guy, he goes, "How the hell did you let that go through your legs?" Well, I loved them. They were great people. Columbia, I was recruited by Billy Campbell, tremendous coach. We had a wonderful team in '66. I remember sitting there watching the guys walking in, and I said, "Holy crap, is this Michigan State or what the hell's going on?" George Stark comes in. He's 6'4", 6'5". Keith Bird, 6'5", and then, you know, when you suit up, it becomes different when you get out there in the field. So I was privileged to play at Columbia. The education at Columbia gave me an opportunity to critically think, be able to consume a lot of data and information, and I was recruited into the FBI, and I had the privilege of working with wonderful people, such as Kevin Donovan, who's here today. He was the assistant director in charge. of the New York office during 9/11, and he recruited me out of what I call my third foreign country, Washington headquarters of the FBI. And I was lucky to work in New York as an SAC my last 3 years. I carry Columbia football in my heart and in my mind. I lived through a lot of crazy ass stuff. Hey. I need to write a book. My lovely wife, Christine, and I were in Moscow. We were living on a compound, and it was President's Day weekend, 2001. I got a call at 8 o'clock from headquarters, and go clear messages. Hey, can you tell me what the hell's going on? Go clear messages. So I get Kate, one of my office assistants, and it's a big, involved technical process, and it takes about 25 minutes to fire all the equipment up in a secure area of the embassy. And she gets the message, and I'm going like, holy crap, we just locked up Hansen, the biggest spy ever that worked for the KGB. So I get back after about an hour and a half or two, meeting with the CIA guys. The ambassador was out, but the CIA guys knew about it. My wife looked at me and goes, what was that all about? I go, honey, if there was a league at Zimbabwe, you'd want to be in Zimbabwe right now and not in freaking Moscow. But let me finish up with why I'm here. I'm here because I love the game. I played my heart out, and I stood on the shoulders of some great athletes. Marty Domrey's drafted in the first round, 1968. George Stark, who played, and he was the head hog with the Washington, formerly known as Redskins. Mike Busa, who played his senior year on one leg. Incredible scholar athletes, and I was privileged to rub shoulders with them. Don, again, and to the committee and Columbia, God bless you guys, and thank you very much, and go Coach Spagnola.
Like I said, we've done nothing with our life, right? Nothing, right? Like I said, we've done nothing with our life. Like I said, we've done nothing with our lives, okay? Mike, thank you. No, I'm buzzing too. He's seen a few things. Just can't say it. So, I didn't have a chance to check, and he may not be here. But if he is, and I want to shout out anyway before I go to our next honoree. Played at Yale a few years ago. It was great. Is Foyer here? Aluakon? Is Foyer? I was told he might be. And if he is, can we? He led the NFL in tackles the last 2 seasons, okay? Whoa. I said the NFL in tackles the last 2 years. Atlanta a year ago, Jacksonville, playoff-bound Jacksonville this year. Led the NFL in tackles. Okay. I do want to tell one little story, which I think you'll find interesting, being the austere group that we have. Foyer, congratulations, and the Jags were great. Onward and upward with Coach Peterson, as you know. So we're in this ballroom right here at the Marriott. It's big, it's beautiful. But you may not know, I haven't been in here in a long time, not that you care about that, but the NFL draft was held here for many years before it got a little bigger and it went to what was then the Felt Forum and then the Radio City, and now it's in front of like 300,000 people outside, and Vegas, Philly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was held in here for a lot of years. And then it moved on. And in 1995, in February, a couple weeks after the Super Bowl, we came back in here to do one little piece of business, and that was the expansion draft, which the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars were picking from existing rosters. And there were very few players that you really had heard of, but we were doing the telecast on ESPN on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I was lucky enough to work with Bill Walsh. Hello. So fascinating on the type of guys you would pick. You need a long snapper. You need a left tackle that won't embarrass you. You'll need maybe a punter, things like that. After about 20 picks, 10 of each team, maybe 24, and we got more to go, I went out to go to the bathroom, okay? Real quick. I wasn't as old as I am now. So I went out. This wasn't like the crowd like we used to have. I went out to go to the boys' room. 2 minutes, I had my hand on the door to come back in. Our set, I think, was the other end. And there's what I thought was an elderly couple, although now I realize at the time they were in their 60s, upper 60s. So they were young, And they were smiling. I could tell they were not from New York. And the gentleman goes, "Are you Chris Berman?" I said, "Well, yeah, I am." "Well, this is my wife," and I'm trying to remember. It could be Leslie. I don't remember. "It's my wife, Leslie Bean, and I'm Alan Bean. And where are you two from?" "Well, we're from Houston, Texas." "Okay, that's interesting." I said, "Well, what brings you to New York?" "Well, it's our first time here. I think you're going to go to a couple of shows." "No, we have a dog in the Westminster dog show." "Okay. We're staying here." Obviously, the dog wasn't with him at the time, and it's a Pekingese or whatever it was, and doing well after the first night, and they were hopeful the next couple of nights it would be great. And so we talked for a little bit, and I said, "Well, I got to go back in. It's a pleasure meeting both of you. Good luck and enjoy New York." And a light bulb went on in my head. I don't know how I remembered it. I said, "Leslie and Alan Bean, Houston, Texas, huh?" I said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question, sir, before I go back in there?" He goes, smiling. He said, "Sure. Did you walk on the moon?" "I did." The 12 people walked on the moon. I went to go to the bathroom. The the Carolina Panthers Jaguars expansion draft. He was in the dog show, and he's one of 12 astronauts that walked on the moon. I then said to him, "They don't need me in there for about 5 or 7 minutes, so I'm going to be a little late." And I then talked to a man that walked on the moon, walking out of that door. So I'm sitting here tonight and I'm going, my God. The moral of the story is you never know, hopefully more good than bad, what's right around the corner. Had he not said, he said Dallas, Texas, I never would have thought about it. Houston, Texas, Alan Bean. He passed away a few years ago. He was the one with the photo. He was the second one, Apollo that landed on the moon, with the photo you've seen in Life magazine back in the day. The reflection of him, the reflection of the guy taking the photo in his helmet. That was him. So, at any rate, I thought I'd tell that story. That happened right here. So he had a pretty interesting life, Alan Bean. Went on to be a painter. Here's another one that's had an interesting life. From Harvard class of 2005. By the way, Ivy League, we got I'm going to jump ahead of, C, D. I'm going to go H for a minute, just because at Brown we do the alphabet our way. Okay, so class of 2005, Harvard, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Won 2 Ivy titles, 3-time All-Ivy, quarterback, captain, the Asa Bushnell Cup. Oh, by the way, Harvard was 10-0 senior year. 24-6 his 3 years with the Crimson. Hello. You can applaud. It's okay. It's Harvard, you know. 17 seasons in the National Football League. Quarterback, Harvard. Drafted in the 7th round by the 2005 St. Louis Rams. You know how I like to say from? It was a way to go Steve Jordan from Brown University, or Tommy would do it from Louisville. So I'm going to do it, then, you know. So if I say Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's going to be from the St. Louis Rams, from the Cincinnati Bengals, from the Buffalo Bills, from the Tennessee Titans, from the New York Football Jets, from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from the Miami Dolphins, from, I think they were the football team then, the Washington football team, from 9 teams. And I wrote them down and I forgot the alphabet. From the Houston Texans, 25 teams. We can't count either. Threw 4 touchdown passes in a game with 6 of them. You can applaud. The only one, have a passing and a rushing touchdown with 8 different teams. "62 different players caught a touchdown pass from Fitzy right here. 62. You had to root for him because he either played for your team or you had respect for him because he beat your team at some point. I mean, there was no way around it. About 35,000 yards passing in the NFL, 223 touchdowns. That's most ever by an Ivy Leaguer, okay? And in those 17 seasons, he did every one of them with a smile, with excitement of a man playing a boys' game. And fans going to the game, you gave them more than their money's worth. You know, no matter how it turned out, it was a joy for 3 hours to watch you play, and any fan buying a ticket or in the stadium felt that way. And sometimes he gave fans, I'm going to call it a 3-day hangover, let me explain. When Ryan beat Tom Brady, you know, the Bills finally beating the Patriots at home, it was 2011, it was a big deal. And there were this is true, right? There were people parked in the campers, like still passed out in the parking lot Wednesday morning. I mean, they may still be there. I really don't know. At the Big Tree, maybe they stumbled in, right? So I think that's why Tom finally retired. He goes, I can't live down that 2011 game that I lost. I think that's probably why. What's really cool is that now he's one of us. He's on the pregame and the halftime and the postgame on Amazon and Prime Video on Thursday Night Football. So a brave new world again. One of the most unique players that I've had the pleasure to get to know a little bit and to cover in my years of the NFL, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Have a look.
Whose closet did you borrow that from? Is it Gerald's?
That's Deshaun. No, it's just game day wear. But
I got
your friends there. Hey, DJ. I got like 2 more because DJ needs his stuff back.
Wait a minute, you mean
I borrowed your stuff. Sorry. Yeah, I borrowed your stuff. Sorry, Deshaun.
What is yours? Is any of that yours or is
The
that?
chest hair is mine.
Ryan, you've got people in the stands wearing beards. You've got women wearing beards. They're wearing Magic t-shirts. They're playing the Magic song for you after one of your touchdowns. What does it mean to you to have the Bucs fans just embrace you so much?
It's fun. You know, I'm just trying to enjoy the ride. You know, and I've had so many ups and downs in my career. So you know, when it's going good, you learn to enjoy the ride, and we'll try to keep this thing going.
Grew up in Gilbert, Arizona. Moved once across town, but lived a very sheltered childhood. Came to Harvard, thought I had the world figured out, and realized that I knew nothing.
Well, I think it all starts with, my first meeting with him in his home.
in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. I remember the visit. You know, Fitz didn't say a whole lot. He just kind of took everything in. And I walked out of there saying, I don't know how good this kid's going to be, although I think he's a lot better than he's being recruited. But he just has this intangible it factor that's almost palpable. And I knew that he would be a great fit for us as a quarterback and as a leader.
When I think of moments that transform my life, I really think about the 6 a.m. January and February workouts that we had here. It was walking across the bridge. It was still dark outside. We had to be here by 5:45 or coach was going to get on us. And it was going through those workouts in the cold and then going back and just spending the next hour and a half in the dining hall, just talking to friends. And those were the moments that I loved being here.
Fitzpatrick, 7th round draft pick from Harvard. And he's the first quarterback from Harvard ever to play in the NFL. Fitzpatrick, he's a smart one.
It's not just the 4 years I spent here with the education, but that web of people I am now connected to. And most importantly, my wife, who, as you know, was a much better athlete than I was when we were here.
And way out of your league, by the way.
And way out of my league. But I still remember playing on this field. She would always play at O'Heary next door there. And just that relationship. And now we've produced 7 little ones that hopefully are going to be little Harvard athletes on this field one day.
We might be drawn down the line.
Football!
No,
I think it's everyone except me.
We got a lot of soccer players, and then the big boys play football. Are you going to play football someday, Jake?
I'm playing football. I'm a cheerleader. Go.
When I think of Ryan Fitzpatrick, immediately I think of his wife, Liza. I think of the 7 kids, makes him who he is. But I think of the special player, the special teammate that I got to play with for years in Buffalo and stayed in contact with, and now get to see his journey out of the NFL and watch him crush it on his next chapter of life now. I think of a hilarious individual, but on the field, the ultimate competitor with absolutely no ego and everything you want in a teammate.
Fitzpatrick can pull a trick out. He got hit as he lofted it up. Blown coverage. Mac Hollins is inbound.
You see the face mask right there, but you're playing cover 2. Situational football. Can we not just talk about that?
It's a restricted free agent. Now a twist up front. Fitzpatrick lobs it to the near side and a back shoulder.
In overtime. Fitzpatrick. End zone.
Yeah, I think he's a very instinctive player. I think he is able, he's like a point guard in basketball. He sees the whole field in his mind, and he can anticipate what is going to happen, and knows by alignment or by stance or by where the safeties are, where the linebackers might be, what's getting ready to happen, and he has a great understanding of that. So that takes intelligence, and then he has a great feel for how to go about beating that at the same time.
You know, talk about just the guys that you've recruited here that have gone on and played in the NFL, and there's a huge number of them now, but I got to play with Isaiah Kaczynski. I got to play with Clifton Dawson. I got to play with Cameron Brate. It was really cool, and Cam and I, we had the touchdown, the first Harvard to Harvard connection.
Still have the ball.
And we sent that ball out to you because that was a special moment for us and for this program. And
Yeah. I think Ryan and I connected twice for touchdowns, the Harvard to Harvard connection. But yeah, that was awesome for all of the Harvard football family. We gave the football to Coach Murphy. Just a really cool moment, and happy to be a part of that.
Everywhere he's gone, he has these type of moments and interactions with these guys, and that's what makes Ryan special and his relationships with his teammates special, because those are the things that I think about all the time and that will forever be with me. It's not the game-winning touchdown, but it was the communication to get there. It was, him believing in me, him listening to me, and him actually throwing it to me and me coming down with it and making him right. Making us right. It's the moments, and it's what leads up to those moments, not just, oh, we scored a game-winning touchdown. It's, no, we talked about this all week, or we even talked about this for 25, 30 seconds, and the coaches let us do this. That's what makes Ryan special.
What I'm most proud about are my 7 kids and my wife and the family that we have, because that is what life is all about to me.
Congratulations to you!
Thank you. The Ivy Football Association gave me the same directive I get from my wife all the time: keep it short. So I'll do my best here. Even the Brown guys are laughing. That's good. That's just kidding. Thank you to everybody that had a hand in making this such a special night. Our wonderful MCs. Jack Ford, Chris Berman, you guys do a great job. That call from my first touchdown pass is pretty cool. That was a good memory for me. It's just very humbling to stand up here and to see the success and the drive in this room. You know, sitting next to everybody up here, we've got managing directors and FBI agents and esteemed doctors, and we've also got a youth basketball coach that has 4 teams, and the biggest thing on my plate right now is scheduling treats for the different teams. But we're all very accomplished in our own right, and I'm very honored to be up here. I would like to take a moment to recognize my coach, Tim Murphy. He's entering his 30th season at Harvard as head coach. But this league is made up of special players and special people, but it's also made up of special coaches. So I do just want to recognize Coach Spagnola, Coach Priori, Coach Reno, and then for this other list, special group of guys, Coach Tevens, Coach Archer, Coach Perry, and Coach Serace, guys that played in the Ivy League and then returned to coach at the schools that they played at. I think that says a lot about how special this league is and how we hold it in such high esteem. So thank you. I remember so vividly in 2005 when I went to the NFL Combine, the biggest question that was asked of me was I committed to the game of football? Was I dedicated enough to this craft? Did I have other interests that were going to mess up any sort of NFL career? And I always laughed at it. I laughed at it because I don't know that people outside of the Ivy League understand the commitment that we put into this and how much we love this game. And I laughed at it too because I picked maybe the only profession in the world where they viewed an Ivy League degree as a detriment. And So I just wanted to point out and read this list of guys. You know, despite the anti-Ivy League in some of those interviews, I just started going through the Ivy connections throughout my career, and it's incredible the guys that I came across. Yes, I played with a lot of people. Yes, I played on a lot of teams, but I'll just walk through real quick. Yale, I played with Nate Lowry in Cincinnati. I had Joshua Grizzard and Patrick Graham as coaches in Miami. I got to play for the great Dick Duran in Buffalo. Quick sidebar, I think I also got Dick Duran fired in Buffalo, but he's a Yale guy, it's okay. Princeton, I played with Mike Catapano here in New York, was with Bob Serace in Cincinnati, and I was on the phone with Jason Garrett when Mike Martz called me to draft me from the Rams, so I clicked over to talk to Mike Martz, completely forgot Jason was on the other line, haven't spoken to him since. I hope you forgive me. Penn, I played with Brandon Copeland in New York, I played with Justin Watson in Tampa. Dartmouth, just a quick interesting story, Coach Tevens, when he was at Stanford, he was running the Manning Passing Academy and invited me to go to the Manning Passing Academy, which was the first time in my life going there and pitting yourself kind of against some of the other college quarterbacks. I realized the NFL wasn't just a dream, but probably a sort of reality. So thank you for that opportunity, Coach Stevens. Columbia, I played with Jeff Adams in Houston and Josh Martin in New York. Brown, I had the pleasure of playing for Bill O'Brien in Houston. And he taught me a different way to view the game and really changed the course of my career. And if you don't believe me, look at my stats before I played for Bill and after. It's pretty remarkable. Harvard, I was lucky enough to play with Isaiah Kazavinsky in St. Louis, played with Clifton Dawson, and I played with Cameron Brate. And as you heard on the clip, first Harvard connection in the NFL with Cam. Boy, he is goofy, isn't he? And that leaves Cornell. Bless them, they really try. They do. Oh, upstate New York is beautiful. It's, but that's, I mean, my 17-year NFL career, the story couldn't be told without the Ivy League. And so to prove my undying love and affection for this league, I set an NFL record for all of you. And I want to read it so I can get this right, but in keeping with Ivy football tradition, for my entire 17-year career, I chose not to take part in the playoffs. You're welcome. You're welcome. I've got my dad here tonight, who's been with me every step of the way. And if I could have my Harvard teammates that I played with, if you guys could all stand, please. Have a great showing of guys tonight. We bonded over our love for football and our passion for life. And I was granted the opportunity to play for as long as I did, which, I never once took that for granted. I saw my career as an achievement for all of us, the hard work that we put in, and that was my thing every Sunday. As I went out there, I gave it everything I had. I played as hard as I could, all in the hopes to make all you guys proud. So thank you for showing up tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yale's Jack Ford.
Mention it then. When we talked about welcoming us all back, we have actually 5 of our athletic directors who are new, who are here for the very first time. And let me just mention it, get a heads up, a shout out, a hand wave from all of them to talk about it. At Cornell, brand new athletic director Nikki Moore is with us. At Dartmouth, the new athletic director Mike Harity. At Harvard, new athletic director Erin McDermott. At Penn, we are joined for the first time by new athletic director Alana Shanahan. And from Princeton, first time athletic director John Mack. So once again, welcome to all of you. We so appreciate the work you do, and we hope you are appreciating this, your inaugural visit to the Ivy Football Association dinner. Let's now move on to our next honoree. Shh. That works often, except for the Dartmouth guys, who I love. Our next honoree, from Cornell University, Dr. Lyndon Gross. One of the hallmarks, I think, of all of our honorees is how very talented they are at how many different pursuits. And I think Dr. Gross is a perfect representation of that. A 1986 graduate of Cornell, Varsity football, 3 years. Senior year as a safety, led the team in tackles, a team captain. Honorable mention, all Ivy that senior year. Graduated from Cornell with a degree in microbiology. He moved on after Cornell to medical school, receiving his degree, not surprisingly, cum laude. And also, as if that wasn't enough, he also received a PhD in molecular biology. Here's an interesting thing about him. Any of you physicians out there, you have family members who are physicians. I have a daughter who's a cancer surgeon, who was a Yale lacrosse player, and you sort of know what they go through. Dr. Gross, during his residency, decided, I guess he figured he had free time and decided he was going to take up rugby, and became so adept at it that he was invited to the U.S. national rugby camps. And he told me the story how in the midst of his residency, he was invited to play in Hong Kong. And fortunately, he had a very understanding residency director. Again, you folks are physicians. I'm not so sure you know that many of them, but he had the opportunity to do that. He has gone on to be an extraordinarily talented and accomplished orthopedic surgeon. He has been the surgeon for several professional sports teams. And during his time, he's also found the time for extraordinary community service work. An exceptional surgeon, a prolific researcher, community volunteer, and a leader, and a proud Cornell alum. Let's take a look.
How does it feel to be back on Sholkoff Field?
Well, it feels great to actually be back here. I enjoyed playing here. I loved seeing the Crescent full when we played. We weren't as successful as I wanted to be sometimes, but I enjoyed playing. I enjoyed my teammates. I enjoyed my coaches. My experience here was, I can't even describe it in words, actually. It was one of the best 4 years of my life, actually.
So Lyndon, I've had a chance to visit you in St. Louis a number of times, and we often get to talk about Pete Noyes and the impact he had on your play and your motivation. And just for a minute, talk about what it was like to have a leader like Pete and all the other people that influenced you when you were here. What did they mean to your development?
Well, Pete is very special to me because he's one of the reasons why I continued to play. I, at one point in time, had some questions about if I really wanted to still play football even after my sophomore year, but Pete convinced me to come back and play, and he was a great coach.
Lyndon Gross, all of the Big Red Nation are so very proud of you, especially your teammates. You were a 1984 and 85 team starter as a free safety and an outside linebacker, as in monster back. You always went to the strength to take away their best players. And you were a tackling machine, 100% loyal Big Red teammate forever. He gives back to Cornell forever. Most important, you are a wonderful dad to Jordan. It doesn't get any better than that.
Some of the people I met in my life that have been the most inspirational people in my life are the people I met here when I was playing football and going to school here. So not just football players, but other students I met, and even my fraternity brothers, who a lot of them are still my friends.
Lyndon was 2 years behind me, but I played 2 years of varsity football with him. He was in the Chi Psi fraternity with myself, and we took a lot of pride in, having a lot of fun, being serious about our commitment to football, our commitment to Cornell, academics. Lyndon was a great example of all of that. And, he got a PhD in molecular biology at the same time that he got his medical degree. Always a great student athlete.
When I got here to Cornell, I obviously was pre-med. I was a microbiology major, and that's what I studied here. And for me, science made sense.
What impact did football have on your development as a surgeon and an elite orthopedic surgeon in St. Louis?
Well, I think that football taught me perseverance. We talk about perseverance all the time, and it's the continued effort to achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition.
I think that the thing that people don't understand
is excellence. Okay. And, there's never anything. Lyndon never, ever makes an excuse. He never, ever says, oh, I couldn't do that because of. He just gets it done. And you don't see that. How many guys who graduate at the top of their class in Cornell, graduate at the top of their class in med school, get a PhD, go to the best sports fellowship and best residency in the country and do well. Never once did he need help. Never once did he rely on what he looked like or what his who his dad was or who his coaches were. He's never done that.
Lyndon was seemed to always have all the tools that he needed, right? He was an excellent athlete. I talked to you about him joining our rugby club. He went from never playing rugby before to actually becoming a member of the national 10 side and was playing in Hong Kong a couple years after that. At the same time, he started as a PhD student at Downstate, but he was living with a whole bunch of medical students. So one day he sort of said, hey, these guys can become doctors, I can become doctors. And he switched to the MD PhD program, and he flew through. He got one of the best residency programs in the country at Pittsburgh. And then I tried to convince him to come back to Brooklyn, but I was unable to do that. And he wound up taking a job where he was dealing with, professional teams in St. Louis.
Probably one of the best moments taking care of baseball was when they won the World Series in 2011. And I actually got to take my son in the parade.
One of probably my best sports memory, after the Cardinals won the 2011 World Series, I got to ride in the back of a truck with a couple players in the parade after. I mean, that was just such a cool experience. I mean, as a 6-year-old, I don't know if I appreciated it fully. Didn't really know how special of a moment that was. But yeah, just looking back on it, I feel like that's a really unique and just great experience that I'm glad I've had.
I had to say one of the things that bonds my cousin and I is love. To see the kind of man he is, to see the kind of father he is, to see the kind of community leader he is, to see just how dang on inspirational he is to me and so many others. It makes my heart feel good. He worked hard. He stayed consistent. He's had integrity.
And I think that I was placed in positions, had people around me who actually helped me. I feel very blessed with all the people I've met in my life that have been instrumental in anything that has happened to me.
From Cornell University, Dr. Lyndon Gross.
Thank you. Thank you to my fans over there. I want to thank the Ivy League Football Association first for this honor. It's a great honor. I'd like to thank Cornell University for everything that I did there. And I'm going to say something, this is from my heart. When we look at this, I look at my life. My life is, I've been blessed. Life is like football to me. We have teammates, we have a team, and we are all together. And I think all the gentlemen standing up here or sitting up here today could say that they are blessed and that people in their life have done things that have helped them get to where they are. I don't think anybody up here will say that they're a self-made man. I think everybody here would say that they were blessed by somebody or the people in their life that helped them. And I honestly want to say to all the people in my life that are out there, there are a lot of them sitting out here, my teammates, my family members, my fiance, that they have made me who I am. Without them, I would not be here today. And I want them actually, believe it or not, to stand up and take a bow for me, because thank you so much. I am honored, I am humbled to be here. I unfortunately don't have a speech like everyone else. I'm just talking from my heart here, and I just want to say to everybody here, thank you for this. Also to Ryan, that you did not play with some people from Cornell, but you did play against a couple of people. J.C. Treader, who played for Cleveland. You played against Kevin Booth, who is a two-time Super Bowl champion for the New York Giants. So you might not have played with them, but you did play against them. So just to get that out in the open right now. But to make this short, I appreciate everyone that's here. I appreciate this honor, and I just want to thank everybody. Thank God. Thank my family.
Our next honoree from Dartmouth College, the class of 1958, Robert Downey. Bob Downey got to Dartmouth as a heralded athlete. He had, by all accounts, an exceptional freshman year playing football. And then he will tell you his football career veered off in the direction of, unfortunately, injuries. But I think what's most compelling about his story is, rather than those frustrations taking over and somehow just depressing his feel for that great school, it actually, in some ways, he'll tell you, it elevated his interest. And it elevated that connection that he had to Dartmouth College. Bob had an extraordinarily successful career on Wall Street. He was with Goldman Sachs for much of his career. Indeed, he is so highly thought of that to this day, he still holds the honorary title of Senior Director at Goldman Sachs. If I started to list all of his honors and awards, we would be here till Tuesday. But you'll get a sense of them when you see his video. But what is, I think, so remarkable, again, is his investment in Dartmouth. He took over in 2010. He was asked to serve as the chairman of the Friends of Football. And in his first year alone, he succeeded in more than tripling the amount raised in any one prior year. He has served his class at Dartmouth, raising funds for them. He has served on many other committees and organizations. Somebody at Dartmouth told me today, we were talking about Bob's work and how good he was and how gentle he was, as he was so effective at raising funds. And they told me that eventually word got to be that if you got a phone call from Bob Downey about contributing to Dartmouth, your simplest response would be, here's my checkbook. You fill it out, do what you need to do here. When you look, I think Bob Downey is so emblematic of what these institutions, these 8 marvelous institutions, what they create during the course of the time that we all spend there. And if you look at Bob Downey and you look at his storied career and you talk with him about his involvement with his college, you'll know that he is indeed as proud of Dartmouth as Dartmouth is of him. Let's take a look.
Somehow the place gets to you. Maybe it's because it's not in a big city, it's in a rural area, and makes you more self-contained, perhaps. I don't know. There's an intimacy. There's a I don't know. The devotion to the place just creeps up on you.
Bob was a real powerhouse as a running back and as a defensive player. And at that time, we played both ways. And we had a coach, freshman coach, whose name was Joe Sullivan. And Joe Sullivan was one of the best halfbacks that played for Dartmouth back in the 40s. And it didn't take long into the freshman season for Joe Sullivan to start telling anyone within earshot, this guy Downey is going to be one of the best halfbacks that ever played for Dartmouth.
I had a very excellent freshman year in football and very promising. So I was just so high on sports, but I also joined a fraternity, which didn't help. And then when I went out for football with great promise, I got injured just before the first game, and that injury lasted most of the season. It started at a lesser firm, R.W. Pressbridge, hired me and was very impressed with my sales record of insurance, I think, was part of it. And so I had a very good career there for several years, and then Goldman Sachs came after me.
I can remember a time way back in 1979 when, as a junior investment banker in Goldman Sachs' Chicago office, I was working with Mayor Michael Bilandic on a city of Chicago financing. And after an epic snowstorm, Bilandic lost an election to Jane Byrne, and the new administration was on the verge of replacing Goldman Sachs with one of our competitors. That would have been almost as bad as losing to Harvard, right? Bob came to the rescue, and after a dinner with the new Irish mayor, he charmed her by singing "When Irish Eyes Are Smiling," bringing tears to her eyes with his great baritone voice. And if none of you have heard Bob sing, let me tell you, he's got a great voice. And so we were reinstated as Chicago's investment banker, and Bob won me as an admirer.
Once I got involved, it's like a narcotic. You know, you get more and more deeply involved. I was involved in every capital campaign for the last 60 years with some function, and co-chaired the big one that took place called the Will to Excel in the 1990s.
It was alumni like Bob Downey who comes back to campus repeatedly doing positive things beyond his fundraising, the things that he does to encourage that each and every young athlete at Dartmouth College, no matter what year they're graduating, they understand that their performance reflects on all of us. And we are all so proud to be Dartmouth College grads.
Fraternity, otherwise and forever will be known as the Animal House, because during our era, most of us had animal names which we addressed each other with. And when President Eisenhower gave a commencement speech here, it also said when he got here that this is what a college ought to look like. And it was pretty much the same view when Eisenhower was here, I'm going to say in the mid-50s. So we always felt that way, but that kind of reinforced it for all Dartmouth people, men and women. What drives me? I like to win. Being successful, but doing it right, doing it properly, staying within the bounds.
And he is such a gifted individual in terms of requesting help and assistance. No strong arm tactics. He's just very gentle in his approach, but he has a wide network of friends, and Friends of Football just exploded under Bob's guidance. And the difference that's made in the lives of so many of our players, facilities, opportunities, networking, he just opened up an awful lot of doors, and he didn't have to do it.
I still think I'm the luckiest guy on the face of the earth, you know. But we're still both going strong, and we plan to continue.
I just would like to add that he has always been really generous and kind, and he fiercely loves his family and has done everything for his family. And this is our Christmas card this year, celebrating our 60 years of marriage.
I love Dartmouth, and I always loved it. I loved my classmates, my fraternity brothers, and everybody involved with it.
From Dartmouth College, Robert Downey.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, first a quick reference to my football catch, which concluded the video. It took place a few years ago when I was in my early 80s, and Buddy Tevens, the passer and Dartmouth coach, was pushing 60. But it was not my reception that was memorable. It was Buddy's amazing 65-yard throw. Ryan, are you listening? So when you get older, you know, okay. Buddy still got it. About a decade ago, Buddy changed Dartmouth football forever by deciding that henceforth there would be no more tackling in practice. This has had a profound effect, not only on Dartmouth, the Ivy League, and the college game generally, but to a significant degree on the NFL. Dartmouth experiences about half the concussions we had suffered previously. Had this no tackling practice approach resulted in several losing seasons, it probably would not have succeeded. Instead, along with Buddy's superb coaching staff and talented student athletes, it is a key contributing factor that has led Dartmouth to the best overall record in the Ivy League over the past 8 years. And we're not cheating. That includes our very disappointing 2-5 record last season. That's in there. Make no mistake, however, Ivy League football is fiercely competitive. In recent years, especially with Princeton, Yale, and Harvard breathing down our necks, and Brown, Columbia, Cornell, and Penn, which have regularly knocked off one or more of the other four close behind. Now, in an earlier draft, I had written a sentence or two, and this is what I wanted to do, herald the honorees, Dartmouth honorees especially, who'd come before me. So I'd written a sentence or two on each, but there was no time for that. So I'll just name them. Sadly, Jake Krauthamel and Ken DeHaven have both passed on. Of the surviving 8, Hank Paulson, Jeff Ilmelt, Willie Bogan, and Tom Clark had to regret. But Bill King, Reggie Williams, Murray Bowden, and Governor John Carney are all here tonight. Can we have a little, anybody else get 4? Now, for me to pretend, however, that I had a varsity football career at Dartmouth remotely equal to any of my predecessor honorees, and wait for this, would be like George Santos saying he worked for Goldman Sachs. Realizing that I failed to live up to my football potential, as described by glassmate and fullback Dave Pratt in the video, likely motivated my desire to give back to Dartmouth and its Friends of Football program. I accomplished that by taking on the leadership role a dozen years ago. Since I became chairman emeritus, Friends of Football has been superbly led by Byron Anderson, by the way, who got stuck in Texas today in that ice storm, so he couldn't make it today. But he led Friends of Football superbly over the last several years. But he is represented, or we are, Friends of Football by Brian Conroy, his co-head of Friends of Football. And just to show my age, I played football with Brian's father, class of '56, named Cube Conroy. Wonderful guy. Anyway, these go the wrong way, sorry. As for my career at Goldman Sachs, I am proudest of the following. Under my leadership, Goldman was the leading public finance investment banking firm for at least a decade. As chair of the securities industry in 1990, I put in place a plan that helped allow securities firm to remain independent from commercial bank ownership until 1999, almost a decade. And the actions I'm most proud of are successfully advocating for and sponsoring the first black partner of Goldman, the late Garland Wood, and the second woman partner, Ann Kaplan. After Garland became a partner, it took several more years before the first woman became a partner, and 2 years after that, Ann was named. When I became a partner in 1976, there were only 50 of us, and we were all white males, as were virtually all our competitors. What a great difference we've achieved since then. Nancy is with me tonight, along with our 2 daughters and 2 sons, a couple of their spouses, and 2 of our 9 grandchildren. As to this honor, I never expected it, still not sure I deserve it, but I will forever cherish it. Thank you.
Our next honoree, from the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Thomas Roland, Jr. Dr. Roland has one of those compelling backstories where, as a consequence of serious medical issues when he was young, there was a question as to whether he would ever be able to get around much. Well, he defied the odds and became an extraordinarily successful 3-sport high school star. And then he ended up at the University of Pennsylvania, where it was a combination of his athletic abilities, his adaptability, allowed him as a quarterback to move from the high school run and shoot to run the wishbone offense, as some of you will remember that Penn was running back in that era in the mid to late 70s. He became the starter and exceptionally, not surprising, successful at Penn. Penn was the springboard for what he would do afterwards. He went to med school and he developed a particular interest in skull-based surgery and hearing restoration. Decided on otolaryngology, head and neck surgery because of his interest and the ability of this, and it was an emerging field, the ability of this to give people their hearing back. Throughout the course of his career, he has published over 300 manuscripts, editor of 4 textbooks, numerous textbooks chapter. He teaches and engages in surgery quite literally around the world to help those that are less fortunate. If you read in the program, read some of what he has done in the past. And what it reminds you of is this. Winston Churchill once said that you make a living by what you get, but you can make a life by what you give. And when you look at the patients who have come through his program, and they walk in there without the basic fundamental ability to hear words from their loved ones, and after they leave, they've been given this gorgeous gift of hearing once again. It's hard to imagine how important that gift is to them, but it's a gift that he and his team have bestowed upon so many people over the years. And throughout the course of this time, he has always remained the quarterback and the leader. Let's take a look.
Now in hall and campus through, lift up your hearts and voices for the royal red and blue.
You're right
arrive on campus and you think you're the big recruit, and all of a sudden there are 12 other quarterbacks, and I'm thinking, well, I thought I was the recruit. And then you realize I had it all wrong, and it just means you have to work harder and do better. And by the time of my junior and senior year, I became the starting quarterback and even the captain of the team as a senior year.
When somebody came up against Tom Roland, he was dishing out more punishment than he was getting from the would-be tacklers. And just set a lot of rushing records. He was just an outstanding football player.
I came to NYU. I went to Temple Medical School and then came to NYU essentially chasing my wife to be to New York, and I discovered the Bellevue NYU experience and thought this is a place I should train. And I'm a lifer. I've been here at NYU for almost 40 years in one form or another, with the exception of 2 years in the public health service on an Indian reservation in Arizona. I met Dr. John Golfinos, who's the chairman of neurosurgery, and I said to him, do you like to do skull-base surgery? He had just arrived at NYU, and he said yes, and we sort of formed a team and have been working together for nearly 30 years now, managing patients with very complex lesions. And I think that's been another important point. And I think if there's anything that I'm probably good at, and that's sort of looking at a problem and deciding what the solution to that problem might be and who has to be on that team and what the skill sets of those team players should be. And again, I think that goes back to early days in sports.
Gosh, I mean, there's a lot I can say about Tom Roland. He is a special human being in every way. And it's infuriating sometimes. You know, I think of him sort of as the older brother that I never had and never knew I wanted. And that's, you know, when you look at the things he's done in his career, he's been the chairman of ENT. He is the chairman of ENT here at NYU, one of the most prestigious departments in the country. And on top of that, he also has done an enormous amount of research into cochlear implants. But on top of that, this is a guy who goes to Africa to help, and he goes to Uganda to help other people, other doctors learn how to do the things that he does, just so they can help restore hearing to children in Uganda and to other people in Uganda. So, and that's in his spare time. And I don't even understand how he has any spare time. So it's, you know, I'm very glad that Tom Roland walked into my life. I can say that.
I used to tell people there's this unique experience that you very seldom get in life. And it's when you're so concentrated and so focused on an idea, a concept, a thought, that nothing else you're aware of for that moment. You know, you catch a nice pass in a football game and you're running for the goal line and there's 2 or 3 defenders to get around. There's nothing else you think about at that moment. I haven't experienced that in a long time except during a very intense operation.
He's been one of the most prominent people in cochlear implants, which is the ability to do an operation and have people who have no hearing have hearing with a device that is partially put inside their head and partially put outside their head. And he has done countless cochlear implant operations, resulting in literally thousands and thousands of patients having hearing restored who are mostly or completely without hearing.
Yep. There we go. Hi, Bear.
Tom has traveled the world to improve healthcare in underserved countries. He is a gentleman and respected worldwide for his expertise.
I speak of him as a human being. I speak of him as a friend. I speak of him as a physician, highly accomplished physician. Bear in mind, he has led the development of one of the great ENT programs in the world. And we're blessed for that. And we're grateful for that, because that's why patients come to you. They're hoping they're going to get the very best of care. And Tom delivers that. And I don't care who you are. I know one thing for certain. The care he gives to me, he gives to every other single person that comes in to see him, without regard to status or without regard to rank or without regard to ability. And that sets him apart as a truly outstanding doctor, physician, and friend.
But I do feel very fortunate. I feel, life has been a path from my humble beginnings to where we are now. And I think it's about looking and recognizing opportunities, of understanding those opportunities, taking advantage of them. I've been fortunate to have some very special people in my life along the way that would help me make decisions and were great mentors. And I feel like, currently I'm in an amazing institution that is just, if everyone knows the history of the NYU Medical Center in the last 15 years, it's an extraordinary story. And I really feel very fortunate to have been on this ship as well, and contributing in every way that I can.
From the University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Thomas Roland.
Well, thanks for that. I had not seen that video till this moment, so it was very nice. And thanks to the team that put that together. I don't know where they found those old clips, but that was great. So I only have a few minutes to speak, and I won't talk about the values that team sports instill in us and the unique college experience we have had as a result of participation in football, especially Ivy League football. I have been blessed by some amazing mentors throughout my life in sports and then in medicine. These individuals have delivered great instruction, critique, advice, and much of this continues to be very useful. I just would like to call 5 of the many important lessons that I received over the years. So my high school football backfield coach and also organic chemistry teacher, Anthony Quinn, would tell us in the classroom and on the field, "I'm going to teach you and push you at a level far above anyone's expectations. You might feel the goals are unachievable, but if you only get halfway there, it'll be an amazing success." So this leadership example is very important to this day. We push ourselves and those in the team to great heights, and we set the bar very high. Dr. and Coach Harry Gamble, my head coach at Penn, once said before a game, "Concentration and execution is the key to success. If one executes to perfection, the game will be won. You will never have great dreams of your successes, but only bad dreams of the times you failed to execute, the big mistakes. These dreams will be recurring." It's very true. Harvard, 1976. Never should have pitched that ball. So this advice is so important in our current leadership roles. Striving for perfect execution by everyone on the team is an important goal. My surgical mentor and once chairman of our department, Dr. Noel Cohen, would say, "Operate as though you are being watched on television. Review recordings of your operation, much like those Monday night football game films you learned from. Be exacting in your movements. Avoid extraneous activity. Every action should result in an advance in the operation." So this sage advice is so important to becoming a master surgeon and helps us as we train others in our craft. Dean Robert Grossman, who has moved NYU Langone Health from a boutique, sleepy medical center to a world-class institution, said to a group of newly appointed chairs in a leadership class, "Be an immediate responder to communications. Don't put them off or they drift to the bottom of an email chain or a to-do list. One can always modify the answer or advice as the situation evolves, but not become known as a procrastinator or non-responder. You will quickly lose the respect of your team." This leadership advice has perhaps been one of the personal hallmark or characteristics of my chairmanship at NYU. It is an incredibly simple concept that delivers great results. And lastly and importantly, when I became a chairman of our department and asked for advice of a longtime colleague and friend, from another institution. He encouraged me to celebrate the successes that the team has achieved. Let them know you are proud of your accomplishments and their accomplishments. Reward those that push the team to great heights. We too often only focus on the problems and failures. We spend more energy and time with problems and neglect recognition of success. We go to bed at night worrying about and trying to solve perhaps unsolvable puzzles that cannot be fixed. It's important to recognize this and move on. By celebrating successes, everyone is rejuvenated and wants to do better. The team is elevated to continue to perform at high levels of excellence. So lastly, I'd just like to thank the Ivy Football Association for this great recognition and honor. Just when I was becoming overcome by a melancholy feeling as I stepped down as chairman of our department, I received a communication that I was being recognized. I must say it was very uplifting to the spirit. I want to especially thank Gary Vera and Dr. Hensley, because I think they probably had much to do with this honor. I also want to thank my family and friends and colleagues. Many are present this evening, and I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed to have and to know you. Thank you again.
So Dartmouth guys, I think the Penn guys might have taken your crown of rowdiest tables at this dinner. Our next honoree, from Princeton University, the class of 1961, James Blair. Jim Blair, his athletic ability was apparent very early on. He had an exceptional high school career in Southern California, Beverly Hills High School. He actually played in the 1957 Shrine High School All-Star Game in the LA Coliseum, which drew 100,000 spectators. So he took those talents to Princeton University. And from the moment he set foot on campus, he was a star on the freshman team. Moved to the varsity his sophomore year, was a 3-year starter in Princeton's fabled single-wing offense. In his senior year, first team All-Ivy, and also shared the Most Valuable Player award. He graduated as the 3rd leading pass receiver at the time in Princeton football history. He went on to obtain a master's degree and a PhD, traveled down the road to the University of Pennsylvania for those degrees, as a matter of fact. And he then launched into a extraordinarily successful and visionary professional career. He became early on a venture capitalist in the nascent field of biotechnology. And he recognized the capacity that field had for improving not the human soul, the human spirit, the human condition. You'll hear him talk in his video about that. And had great success with what he did during the course of his life. He was actively involved in nonprofit activities, serving on advisory boards, charitable events, as so many of our honorees here have done, contributing back to their communities. From the time he set foot on the campus at Princeton, he was a leader through that freshman team, his varsity career, and then into that field of biotechnology. Let's take a look.
Going back, going back, going back to Nassau. Going back to the best damn place of all. Going back from all this earthly ball. We'll clear the track as we go back, going back to Nassau.
When I went to the camp the first year, Princeton had on my position, they'd had an all-East player who was just going to be a junior that year. He was a sophomore the year before. And he had hurt his back during the summer and had to give up football. So when we came to camp, it was pretty clear that the position was somewhat wide open. I didn't think anything of it because I didn't have any expectations of being a starting member of the team. But about 1 week into practice, the coach said, put on blue jerseys, and then listed the 11 names of the people that put on the blue jerseys. And I can't remember what color I'd had on me. It was the first time I wore a blue jersey. And so then graduate assistant Bob Cassiola came over to me and he says, do you know what that means? I said, no, it means I'm wearing a blue jersey. And he says, well, when you wear a blue jersey, it means you're first team. And he said, so you've been named on the first team. And he said, don't let anybody take it away from you. And I didn't.
Well, I met Jim Blair, as I met so many of my really close Princeton classmates on the freshman football team. It turns out that Jim Blair was a desired quantity and had been, in effect, recruited. It wasn't a word that was ever used in those days, but in effect, Jim had been singled out because Jim was a leader of the team. He was one of the people who really was an outstanding leader.
At the time the boom started, if you would, the origins, if you would, of biotechnology, it was all about what I would call the double helix discovery per se, molecular biology, which was recombinant DNA, which meant that you could create genes from scratch. And so we invested not only in companies that were medicinally focused like Amgen, but we invested in a company called Applied Biosystems, which had the ability to basically manufacture the genes you were interested in. At that time, we weren't certain what the genes of interest were. But Amgen did a discovery of a gene that basically allowed you to synthesize externally essentially erythropoietin, which is basically the generator of red blood cells in your body.
I admire his risk-taking. 35 years ago, he chose his own path, started his own firm, and been incredibly successful in the field in which he chose. And finally, I think the purpose-driven approach to his career has been very admirable. He chose the venture side of things, and rather than funding businesses that essentially built social media businesses around, I guess, trolling people on the internet, he actually chose a field which impacted millions of people's lives by investing in biotech businesses and medical businesses that changed people's lives and healthcare around the country and around the world.
So the manner in which biotechnology has evolved in the last 40 years since I first became active in it has just been nothing short of amazing. When we started, you needed to discover the genes that express proteins in your body so it was a replacement of genes that your body didn't have or proteins that your body didn't have that allowed you to continue to function. So it was a one-for-one replacement of things that were already in the body. As it evolved over time, and it's evolved now, we learned from the human genome that basically you could start to look at people that had certain disease characteristics and compare those with those who didn't, and see to which you might be able to replace the genes in an important fashion. So the proteins could be created that you needed to function, or so that the proteins that you didn't want didn't happen. Just talking about life at Susan, it wouldn't have lasted 61 years if it weren't pretty good. It didn't happen because we're lazy. We worked at it, but I think it's been very special primarily because of our ability to have had common interests from day one. What friendships mean, develop those friendships and make them a very, very important part of your life. And those friendships last well beyond your experiences on the campus. The teamwork, the association of teamwork, and how teamwork fits into the rest of your life was learned on the fields that we played at Princeton.
From Princeton University, Jim Blair.
much appreciated. As I know has been mentioned by a few of the others here tonight, I'm surprised to be here. I was surprised when someone called and said, why don't you do this? And then I looked at a few of the other people that had been selected. A fellow, Jerry Kenny from Yale, who's not with us anymore, was my boss for 6 years. And you just look at people that have been here before, look at her tonight, and I'm overwhelmed that I'm up here. I don't totally get it. But it's kind of the way it is. I am very thankful, as it came through a little of the video, of family, friends that are here, my dearest ones, my whole family, pretty much, daughters, sons-in-law, and my very special wife, Susan, has been with me through 61 years. Somebody said 60 years, and I congratulate them on 60 years, but 61st is the toughest. But I would say that I'm obviously pleased and proud of this. I know my parents would be, who haven't been with us for a very long time. And it's interesting at times like this to kind of reflect on experiences, conversations you've had with your parents that aren't with you anymore, that kind of roll through your head at a time like this. And I think it was Mark Twain that once said that the older you get, the smarter your parents became. And in my case, at a very young age, having grown up in Beverly Hills, the land of the stars and the land of the entertainment industry, so to speak, my sister's best friend was an author that wrote articles for the Beverly Hills Watchtower student paper. And her name was Nora Ephron. And I don't know of any of you that follow any of her literature, but if you've seen movies like When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, she wrote a book early on in her career called Wallflowered and Orgy, which had an interesting title. But she wrote that after my father had imposed on me. My father was a frustrated man, and he loved to be a writer. He was in the aerospace business, but he wanted to be a writer. Wrote a lot of articles that got rejected. So when he would read articles that were written by someone like Nora, he was impressed. They talked about writing a lot. And he came to me and he said, Jim, he said, I really think you ought to take Nora to the senior prom. And I had another girlfriend at the time and couldn't really understand why my father would want me to do that. And I said, why? I don't get it. He said, she's going to be famous. I hear the wisdom that comes in the future. So at any rate, I go off to Princeton the next year, and I'm there, and he takes the Daily Princetonian and starts reading the Daily Princetonian. And there was a writer there in my class by the name of Frank DeFord. Frank DeFord, as most people know, probably became the best sports writer of our era, okay, to all the people that are at least my age up here. Very special guy. I never did get to know him. I didn't take my father's advice very well. When I say I didn't get to know him, I was acquainted with him. Johnny McMurray, my buddy that's here tonight, was in the same club. And Frank was a very special guy. And I had occasion to, after my father told me he was going to be a great writer, and he was, meet up with him. And I became the person at the meetings where he spoke to introduce him at the meeting, and I did it a couple of times. The first time I told him the same story I've told you all tonight. And Frank, listened, and then I did it a second time at a second meeting. And he listened again, and when he got up to speak, he said, Jim, I wanted to thank you for one thing. Thanks for never inviting me to the senior prom. But at any rate, why'd I go to Princeton from California? And the answer was my father grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and he was a very good friend of Dick Kazmaier's family. And Kazmaier had just won the Heisman Trophy. He came out to an East-West game. I was 12 years old. And he took me to a Princeton club meeting down there, and I got to shake Frank's, I got to shake Dick Kazmaier's hand, and Dick stayed in touch with my family the whole time. And I won't say it was a slam dunk to go to Princeton, even though my father had, quote, attended the school. But I was always interested in that, with the other things that came along. But Charlie Caldwell and his wife Lucy took me and a very close football playing friend, he was out for the coaches meeting, took me to my first Rose Bowl game and started to recruit me, I guess, in my junior year. And when we went to the game, he said something to me. I stayed with him in the summer. He says, I want to remind you of one thing about Princeton football. I was thinking about the Navy because my uncle was a pilot and every place else. And he said, Princeton football pays you back 10 for 1. And I thought, we weren't thinking about getting paid back in those days or anything like that. But I found out later on, he said that to all of his recruits. Princeton football pays you back 10 to 1. So we would have our training camp in Blairstown, New Jersey, no relationship to this one. But we were a camp. We'd go to camp for, I think it was probably 16 days. We were away from the Princeton campus. We were in a camp. There was nothing to do in that camp except train for football. Later on, you knew to take a swim in a lake after a hot, sweaty practice, whatever it would be. But we'd talk a lot about it. And the kids that were from New Jersey were really frustrated because they were close to home. Their girlfriends were close to home. And so there'd be efforts to kind of sneak out of camp at night and all of that. And a lot of complaints because the coaches were onto it and they'd keep you from doing that. And so at any rate, we're talking about it at lunch and the Jersey kids are complaining about it and stuff like that. And so one of the other guys speaks up because we all got recruited by Charlie and said, just a reminder, guy. He says, we're here. Princeton football pays you back 10 for 1. And this guy from New Jersey said, yeah, but not in Nookie. So, okay, at any rate, moving on, okay? When you get to be kind of our age, everybody here except a few players, we like to go back to the games that we had and what were really memorable games. And I had 2 or 3 memorable games, but my sophomore year, I'm sorry about this, John, but when we played Yale in the bowl, we won the game 50-14, okay? Now, Yale got it better of us in a couple of years, and I'll come to that later. But I went on in our senior year, Yale won the Lambert Trophy that year. They were, best team in the East, a fabulous team that played well. And their quarterback that year was a guy named Tom Singleton. Now, I played against Tom when we played freshman football. They had this new Trier contingent that would come there. So I played against Tom, if you would, theoretically. I played against him for 4 years, but he didn't play a sophomore year. So we became golfing friends and we're in a club together in the California desert. And so we'd sit down and talk about the old days, whatever it was, what happened then, why, I said to him, Tom, I said, what did you thinking when you're getting beaten 50-14? Obviously we're having a good day, but what's it like on your sideline? And he says, well, I didn't play in that game. So he disassociated. He says, I was a quarterback I was like the 3rd string quarterback. And Jordan Oliver, the coach, liked to have his team well organized and sit on the bench. And so I was on the outside bench. And during the game, the bulldog came up to me and started to hump my leg. And so he says, he got up and he says, I ran around and Oliver started, Singleton, back on the bench, and he goes on 2 or 3 times and whatever it would be like. So Singleton, being the guy he was, let it go. We're good friends and we're telling stories. And so about a week later, we're talking again. And he said, Jim, what was it like when you were getting your butt kicked, 43-22 by the Yale team, and 2 years later? And I said, it was kind of bad, but the worst part of it was Yale had sent the bulldog over and he started humping our legs. So at any rate, to try to lighten it up a little bit, I can't thank this crowd enough for being here. I can't thank you guys enough. I've already told you that you're my wife's favorite announcer. We love the Friday night stuff. We're thankful to ESPN for creating the commitment to Ivy League football that it's been. Everybody in this room knows how special it is to be part of a team. And whatever success any of us have had in life, you've heard tonight, it's all about being on the team. Thank you so much.
Our next honoree from Yale. From Yale University, the class of 1979, John Spagnola. John Spagnola, a legendary Yale football player on some legendary Yale championship teams, graduated with a number of receiving records and then took his talents to the NFL, where he played for 11 seasons, 9 of them with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then 1 year each with the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks. And again, if you watch Spags play, and those of us who knew him from Yale just were so invested in watching him, it was always astonishing how talented he was and how effective he was and how productive he was on the football field from Yale to the NFL. But while he's at the NFL, those leadership skills that have served him so well throughout the course of his life became apparent. He served as a player representative and eventually the executive vice president of the NFL Players Association. When he began his professional life after the game of football, not surprisingly, once again, exceptionally successful. He decided he was going to get into the broadcasting business and became an analyst for college football games with ABC Sports for 9 seasons. And if you ever had a chance to watch him do that, you realized he had the ability to take what was happening on the field and to make it understandable and relatable to the fans, while still being a fan himself. He then began what was a remarkable and a stellar career in the financial world that he continues up until today. He's done so many things. He has taught courses. He has also been a community leader, somebody who does indeed give back, spreading his wisdom and his judgment throughout the course of his community, helping health systems and primary schools, showing that ability that we talked about before to not only lead but to help others. Spags, an exceptionally talented football player, an exceptionally talented and successful business leader, and if I can offer personal an even better person. Let's take a look.
Is to be in front of you. 47 years ago, I walked out of there as a freshman in the Harvard-Yale game and stood on this field for the first time. And I remember just looking around and taking it all in and hoping that someday I would make a contribution to Yale football. But along the way, there was this coach by the name of Rich Mazza who coached linebackers and receivers. And he instilled in me a desire to catch the ball and reached me at a level that no coach has ever reached me, save for Dick Vermeil.
Big guy, could catch, not too fast, but maybe fast enough, I'd say. That's maybe the extent of his athletic abilities.
Yeah, I think by the time I attended Yale, the excellence had already been built into the program, and it was expected of the team to compete every year for the Ivy League championship. Carm was a great delegator, and he had a great staff. And Seb Laspina was our offensive coordinator and coach. And so my relationship really was with Seb.
And it was a play where we ran
in effect, an option play. And Obi was the quarterback. And we backed up and started out running an option, flat down the line. And Spags was out to the left. And he went up the field and back so that Obi could throw a lateral pass to him all the way across the field, okay? In the meantime, Christianek was playing tight end to the right, and he ran a lazy cross across the field. And when he got to the point where the safety was originally, he burst straight up the field. At that point, Spags backed up and threw that pass. It was 70-some yards. I don't remember exactly how far it was, but he threw it right on the money.
Well, at Yale, Spags and I and the rest of the team were obviously challenged athletically, but we were also challenged academically. And I remember one course, we had a tough test, and I came out and I was talking to John, and I said, John, that was a tough test. He said, I didn't think it was bad. I said, what about the 5th question on the backside? And he said, there was a backside? He ran back in and completed his test. So.
John was a character. He's really always a piece of work and sort of the heart of the team. He was an incredible competitor. He didn't make it obvious. He didn't act real heavy or act intense, but he competed, and winning was super important to him. And he performed under pressure. That was when he was best.
I had taken my junior year spring semester off to go work for Bill Bradley when he ran for senator in New Jersey. So I worked on his primary. I was a poli-sci major. And I was thinking maybe law school or go working in for Bradley if he won in the senatorial office there. So I knew that if I went to camp, I was going back to school one way or the other, and whether I made a team or not. And it just turned out that I wound up making the Eagles and playing. And I went back to school after we lost the playoff game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after the '79 season.
We had a lot of fun. We practiced hard, we played hard, and then after all of that, we played hard again. We had a lot of fun. And yeah, Spag, although he's, this clean-cut Ivy League guy, he was really in the mud and in the muck of having fun with all of us.
It was really simple. A lot of times you don't always click, and through the years, I've been with a lot of players that I never developed a esprit de corps that you need to play consistently in the NFL. John was incredibly disciplined as a football player, so I always knew where he was going to be. He was not going to make mental mistakes, either physically or mentally. He understood what he was supposed to do on every single play, every single situation, every single coverage. John knew his responsibilities, and it's kind of like, be where you're supposed to be, and I will find you. That was kind of the relationship that we had, and he always was where he was supposed to be, and for the most part, I would find him.
The great thing about John and what his family installed in him all the way going back to Allentown, knew his mom and dad, and our relationship is better today than it was we were working together, because we both care about each other, and I have a hard time not getting emotional when I'm really talking about somebody I love, and this guy, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
So proud of what you have done, way beyond what I thought you were going to do when you came to Philadelphia in 1979.
Well,
as a coach,
that's
deepens
a
the
common
relationship.
denominator, because I didn't know what was inside me.
Yeah.
I had an idea. I didn't pull it out. You pulled it out of me.
Yeah.
You did, and you
We
pulled
didn't
out
give
all
many
the other
people
guys.
choices.
Right.
Ready?
I got Mike. Cut. You go, Bobby. I got you. Go, baby. Get there. Better come back a little bit, Bob. Come back a little bit. All right, let's try it. Bulldog. Bow, wow, wow. Eli Yale. Bulldog. Bow, wow, wow. And he will never fail.
This is sort of taken for granted is that you can't go home again. And I would have to strongly disagree with that, because when I come back to Yale, it just feels like I've never left this place. The memories, the thoughts, the friendships, the enduring difficult times we've all experienced together, and the way we were able to come through and play for really incredible coaches alongside great players, and to have the memories of that along with the friendships that have lasted almost a half a century, and I can't be more grateful. So I will say to you, you can come home again.
From Yale University, John Spagnola.
Wow. You guys are great. I thought, there you go. And I thought it was a cash bar too. I can't believe how much you guys are. Good to see you all. Well, thank you. That introduction and a little vignette caught me a little off guard with Dick Vermeil and stuff. I hadn't seen it in advance. I got a little choked up, as he often does. But I just want to say it's so wonderful to be here tonight, celebrate this honor with friends and family and teammates, classmates, fellow Ivy Leaguers. I'm really humbled to be here. I want to congratulate the honorees from the other 7 schools. It's wonderful to hear your stories and your times at your various schools. I want to let Fitz know that my quarterback rating is higher than his at Soldier Field, being 1 for 1 for 70 yards, 77 and a touchdown, right? I ran into Ryan on the in the lobby and introduced myself, and boy, the Yale-Harvard competition, right, is so enduring. So he's with a couple of buddies today. I say, it's a heck of a turnout tonight. He goes, I know. I said, we have 175 people from Yale. And his buddy said, yeah, we have 176 from Harvard. I said, well, I just got a text that 2 guys just walked up, so we're at 177. And so, anyway, it'll never end. I want to thank the Ivy Football Association, the dinner chairs, Bill Primps from Yale, Gary Vera from Penn. Thank you very much for all you do. The Yale table captains, Jeffrey Manning, what a job you've done, Barry Barnett and Jordan Forney. So thank you so much for all you do. The ESPN gang right here, Jack Ford and Boomer. This dinner would not be the same without you guys here every other year. So thank you so much for what you do. And then I have a few people I just want to highlight a little bit later, but before I do that, I want to ask a couple questions. How about them Bulldogs this year winning the Ivy Championship, huh? All right. And how about them Philadelphia Eagles, huh? Going another Super Bowl? We will not sing Fly Eagles Fly. Terry Bradshaw butchered that about as badly as anybody ever could. There's a couple people I want to single out. Before I do, there's a non-football player that I would like to mention here tonight who was a fixture at this dinner year in and year out, or every other year and every other year out. He wasn't a football coach. He's a great supporter of this event. Guy I love seeing. And his name is Richie Moran, the lacrosse coach at Cornell. So Richie was a coach for arguably the greatest lacrosse teams ever in Cornell in the early days, and my friend Mike French, Jonathan Levine, and Eamon McEnany were on the line, and they went undefeated, and I think you did that game, didn't you? Didn't you broadcast that? You might have, because they played at Brown. So anyway, I wanted to mention him. I also was remiss in my earlier remarks at the Yale event to mention my brother Larry. Larry is here. My brother played at Harvard. He was the Harvard class of 76. So, the Kelsey brothers have nothing on us because he played center, I played tight end, and we played against one another at Soldier Field in 1976. So anyway, Larry, I wanted to recognize you. And And also recognize our parents in the process who saved every nickel and dime they had for their two sons, sent us to Harvard and Yale, and were the first two to graduate from our family. So, you know, that's a transformative thing in your life. So the first person I want to mention, he's not here with us, unfortunately, is Carm Koza. Carm was our coach. He led Yale for 32 years, and the statistic that he was most proud of is that he graduated over 2,000 players, and only 7 of his players did not get a good degree from Yale. He let his assistants do the coaching. He was the firm hand behind the scenes, but he cared deeply about his players. And so Carm is just a big part of my football career, and I wanted to mention him. The second is with us, and you saw him on the video, and that's Seb Laspina, and he's here tonight with his daughters and 2 grandchildren. Seb was our offensive coordinator. He worked for Carm Koza for 32 years as an assistant. He was his assistant every year that Carm was a coach here. And he kept a watchful eye over me and allowed me to develop as a person and as a football player. And then lastly, the person I wish to accept this honor on behalf of is Greg Hall. Greg Hall was part of this Ivy League football dinner committee. He passed away in December of 2018. And he had told me on more than one occasion that he really wanted to see me, be honored at some point. And I have a feeling that that's why I'm here tonight, standing here in front of you. Greg embraced everything that's good about Ivy League football. He practiced hard, he played harder, he led by example as a senior. I looked up to him as a sophomore, as did Bob Christianak and Kevin Kelly. The 4 of us played ends for Yale at that time. We ran the plays in. But I would say in my 22 years of organized football, grade school, high school, college, professional, that 76 season when Greg was a senior and I was a sophomore was the best all-around experience for me. After football and graduation, Greg excelled even more as an active alum. For 40 years, he dedicated himself to Yale student mentorship, hands-on career guidance, alumni networking, and ongoing fundraising. And this activity culminated in his being awarded the Yale Medal, which is the highest honor presented to Yale alumni. So Greg's presence is here tonight. It's palpable, as it will be for all events football related. And those of us who knew him and called him teammate and friend were truly blessed. His wife, Daisy, is here tonight over at table 8. His daughter is here. And I would ask you all to raise a glass to our friend and toast our friend Greg Hall. Thank you. So 20 years ago at the Waldorf Astoria, George Shultz, the former Secretary of State, received this honor as a Princeton alum. And he said something, and I don't often quote Princeton people. He says, I can't tell you the name of all the teachers and professors I've had in my life, but I can tell you the name of every football coach who ever coached me. And he said, you learn things in your head and your brain, and you learn things in your heart. And the things that football teaches you, you learn in your heart, and you never forget it. And I sort of hold that as I want to mention that in an age of college football right now where you can't talk about it without transfer portals, without name, images, and likenesses, without conference realignment, with UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten. By the way, they can't count past 10 because there's already 14 teams in it. And the money grab and the traditional rivalries that are being blown up and the super conferences and then everybody else. The Ivy League model to me is the best model. It's the most enduring model. It's the model that we all know and love. The athlete receives no scholarship assistance except for what every other student would receive based on need. Quitting a sport doesn't jeopardize that assistance one way or another. The model emphasizes the word student in the phrase student athlete. And it's going to withstand the test of time, and it's going to withstand the fight against network, cable, streaming TV, and the NCAA, who continue their incessant money grab at the expense of all the rivalries that we've gotten to know and love over the years in college football and all the college traditions that are going by the wayside. So the people in this room are familiar with Ivy League football. You've played Ivy League football, and you played the sport because you loved it, not because you had to. You know, it's one thing to be a backup in a big-time program and not play, but still accept your scholarship money. It's another thing to be an Ivy League backup and just play the sport because you love to play the sport. We had students on Tuesdays come an hour late for practice. Every Tuesday, they were the pre-med students who were doing labs. You know, they were student athletes. And so the priorities are right in the Ivy League. We have it right. We will always have it right if we stick to our guiding principles of the student athlete, you know, and everything that entails. And that is excellence in the classroom, excellence in the gridiron, excellence in the community. So I beseech you here tonight to let's do everything in our power to preserve and protect the Ivy football model. Thank you and good night.
A quick wrap-up thought after listening to all of the comments of these 8 men, and that is if anybody really doubts the value of this great game of ours and the men that it produces, I'd invite them to come here and just listen to what these 8 men have to say and learn what they have done with their lives. And my guess is if you did that, it'd be impossible not to recognize and embrace all the great and good that the game of college football does for us. We want to thank you for being here. Our friend Murray Bowden, the legendary Dartmouth College Football Hall of Famer, said earlier today, it's important for us to make this pilgrimage here every 2 years to remember where we came from. So thank you all for joining us. I want to thank the great Chris Berman for joining us here tonight. It is such a pleasure to have him here. And again, as I started the evening, I want to welcome you all back to this great tradition that we have, and we'll look forward to seeing you again 2 years from now. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a good night.